So thanks for coming on this channel, guys. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us about your roles in the films?
Hi, I'm Zachary. I'm the director for both films Stay Home Neighbour and Sikit-Sikit.
Hi, my name is Shawn and I starred in Stay Home Neighbour.
Hi, I'm Sam, and together with Angel, we produce both Sikit-Sikit and Stay Home Neighbour.
What was your inspiration behind creating the films and what was your creative process?
Stay Home Neighbour is about two characters who live opposite one another, and one fine day while serving their stay-home notice, they connected with one another, and eventually something happens where they finally meet for the first time at the end of the film. And as for Sikit-Sikit, it's about this single mom who's also a nurse who falls into the victim of the panic buy situation in Singapore, and we see how her struggles, we see how she tries to overcome her struggles during that time period. From the get-go, I knew that I wanted both films to be different in its style and approach. For Stay Home Neighbour, we were going to try out a bit of this magic realist. So the whole idea came about when I was stuck at home most of the time, not really doing much because as a freelancer, I tend to wander out at my window a lot, and that's when that idea sort of kick-started. Because I like to tell stories which usually involve strangers who kind of meet come across each other, and then something happens and they leave this memory or impact towards one another. So that's how this whole idea and premise came about, and together with my writer Timothy, we expanded that throughout the process. Yeah. And as for Sikit-Sikit, it was going to be a little bit more real, a little bit more focused on the idea of social realism in Singapore, and I got a friend of mine, Alphonse, to write the script, to pen it down, and an article struck to us in February when the whole panic buy situation happened in Singapore for the first time. It was a very scary process, and that's how we slowly decided to expand that script from there.
So what was the experience like on set with all these different rules and regulations because of the pandemic?
It was definitely a very different, challenging film environment. I think for many of us, it was our first time going back on set, after months of hiatus. So for both Sikit-Sikit and Stay Home Neighbour, we had to shoot in HDB flats, in public spaces, which meant that we were out in the open and vulnerable to public scrutiny, who were understandably quite scared because of the pandemic. They were quite shocked to see more than 5 people, right? I mean, a film crew cannot be 5 people. So definitely a lot of questions. We had some interesting hostile situations here and there.
A crew being a crew, definitely there's some proximity, walking around each other, I think, in a very tight space. I think that is very natural. Obviously we all have masks on, but I think there was this day where there was a lady, she yelled something like, hey, keep your 1 meter social distancing. Don't cause the whole industry to shut down. Something like, you understand or not, and that kind of stuff. I mean, we did our due diligence. Obviously, the whole crew, actors, we all do our due diligence. But yeah, just gotta, obviously, okay, right.
I think the environment makes it really tricky because, the whole idea of a film production is it's quite an intimate process where a lot of people come together to tell a story, right? So with all these implementations being 1 meter apart, okay, wearing masks is fine, I think we accept that, but being 1 meter apart, it's just challenging because how do you do that?
It's hard to communicate with other people, right?
Exactly. So sometimes we got to learn to use our walkies. We got to learn to adapt to these new conditions. Sometimes even speaking louder because you cannot really hear through the mask, right? I believe we're still quite early in the process of figuring things out. It's not perfect yet, but I think with time, sets will improve in this new normal and we'll eventually get used to it.
But with all these additional steps, I think something that we didn't realize was the amount of resources that you needed to allocate, in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of people. So we tried, but yeah, I think we were quite lucky because our cast and crew were quite understanding and supported one another and reminded one another that we had to take all these precautions.
But like even for actors like myself, right, we are not allowed to have two physical scenes. Even in I mean, let's not talk about like.
Okay, I mean, lucky I never write any hugging scenes.
Yeah, right.
I was lucky, yeah, even though I had to change that. No, there wasn't, thank God, thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean, if he would have written one, right, then I think probably have to retake it.
Yeah, I'll probably like lock myself in the house for a day and trying to work things out in the script again.
So like I mentioned just now, physical distance, one thing, extra precautions, another thing. Creative aspect in terms of like physical hugs or kiss and stuff like that. We are, as an actor, I listen. We don't do that. So I have to try and portray, let's say, love. Like instead of hugging, how can I portray? How can I interpret the script and perform that sort of love? So in a sense, a little bit more different now. As of what I see, things haven't really affected the actor as much as the producer, the whole team, the director. Yeah, so for now I think I'm pretty okay.
Where do you see the local film industry going forward in this new climate? And what kind of new regulations and rules would you want to see?
I'm a fan of cinema. I love going to the theatres, and it saddens me to know that right now at this stage, theatre might eventually be a thing of the past. Streaming is becoming more active now in this current day and age. I mean, look at Netflix, it's booming. And then we have like HBO and Apple Plus and Hulu. So all these different streams are coming online. But that said, they are still making good content. Good stories are key, but the platform might change. As filmmakers, we need to be able to convince the audience why they should return back to cinema. So that is very tricky. I don't really have an answer for that, but like if one day someone can convince the masses that, during this pandemic phase, you deserve to relive that magical experience back in theaters, then I think if people are convinced, they'll come back.
It would be nice. No, it would definitely help if there was an awareness that all these, regulations and precautions that are recommended or made compulsory is met with an understanding that more resources need to be diverted there. So we cannot be expected to work with the same amount of resources but do more. I think that's definitely like challenging, not just for like the production team but for the entire cast and crew.
So be sure to catch both films, Home Neighbour and Sikit-Sikit. They're online on Vidsi now.
So these two projects are done, with the crew, the cast, all of us put in a lot of effort. And as for myself, I enjoyed both. So be sure to check it out.